But of course, it's not only the White House having a big job summit, a powwow, forum, whatever you want to call it. Republicans are doing their own jobs shindig. The House Minority Whip, Eric Cantor, among those leading the charge today. Congressman, good to have you. Thanks for coming.
It's good to be with you.
How is yours different from his?
Well, listen, I think his hopefully will be more than just a photo op. And
Probably it is. He is talking about things he hasn't.
Right.
Talked about.
Well, and listen, and that if we're going to finally focus on jobs, we welcome that. We have consistently, since January, and the first stimulus bill came, tried to work with this administration and say, look, we've got alternatives. Yesterday we rolled out a no-cost jobs plan, and essentially it started with the premise that we've got to stop the harm that's being created by Washington in terms of the rules and regulations detrimental to job creation that they're promulgating. We've got to stop talk of things like card check, of increasing taxes, of making it more difficult for job creators. And one question I've got is, how can you explain when the president says, hey, I'm for job creation, and then next week he'll fly off to Copenhagen to tout the cap-and-trade bill, which will essentially be a job killer? Same thing with Speaker Pelosi. Just today, she said, I'm for jobs. Well, why is it that they are insistent on going to continue to promote this cap-and-trade bill, which we know?
She's not for a war tax. Indicated today she's not for a war tax, so maybe they're hearing it.
Well, listen, we'll look for progress anywhere, but we certainly want to work with them.
So let me just understand this, Congressman. Your solution to creating more jobs is essentially get the government off people's backs, right? Cool it on the regulations and cool it on the tax increases. That's essentially it, right?
Well,
because this guy has been saying, the president, well, the laissez-faire attitude toward business and letting them run and do their own things got us in this muckety-muck.
Well, listen, what is going on right now is a sense across America where you've got folks who've got capital who are sitting on the sidelines because there is so much government activism right now in the markets. There's so many prospects for tax hikes coming down the pike. People are concerned about the price of risk. And right now we ought to be about reducing that price of risk. And we ought to let the markets begin to function again so we can see jobs created.
All right, talking about the markets, Bank of America indicated that it's going to give back all the $45 billion it got, ostensibly for all the right reasons. But many argue maybe to get the government off its back so it can pay its people a gazillion dollars. Maybe the truth is in between. But there are many in Congress who are looking at that money coming back from Bank of America and wanting to rechannel it into other efforts. What do you think of that?
Listen, Neil, when we passed the TARP bill in 08, it was passed as an emergency measure because most people thought that the capital markets were in a collapse mode. That money's borrowed from the taxpayers. We ought not be creating a slush fund for the whim of this city to go about and spend how it feels it should be spent. This is taxpayer dollars.
But that was credit line money, right, Congressman? So who does it go back to? Does it just go back to a credit line that's narrowed again, or does it go back?
It's borrowed money as well. I mean, we're spending money we don't have in this town. So we could pay off the debt with the TARP money that's being paid back in from Bank of America and others.
Well, what do you make of the banks tripping over themselves to get this money back? Why do you think they're doing that?
Well, I think the lesson's very clear. Anytime you get in bed with the federal government, you as an investor are not going to like it because the political whims here begin to dictate business practices. We know this country was not built on government being in the middle of our markets.
Now, you've been invited to many a meeting and summit at this White House. Were you invited to this one?
No, I was not invited to this one. And in fact, Neil, we're standing here at the Chamber of Commerce in Washington. They weren't invited to this summit. So if you think about job creators, what do you think about? Usually you think about the Chamber of Commerce. So what we see now in the summit, and those who were invited, I didn't see many small business job creators there, and that's my concern. We've really got to understand and examine this through the prism of the job creator.
All right, Congressman, thank you very, very much. Very good seeing you.
Thank you, Neil.
The House Minority Whip, Eric Cantor.